ma'am. You can go ahead.
Many of you may have heard about the Bible, the shortest Bible verse in, well, the Bible. And that verse is John 11:35. Jesus wept. Now, before I start getting into the story, I'd like to talk about the background. This book was written by John in around 90 AD, and he was an evangelist. And some of them called him the one whom Jesus loved, and that's how he is talked about in this book. In this chapter of John, well, the full book of John, he tries to focus on the promise that God has given us, and the bodily resurrection for those who believe in God. Alright, so in this verse, I'm just going to do some surrounding verses that are with it. Lazarus has died, and this is in Bethany, and Jesus is in another town at the moment. So he comes only 4 days later. So 4 days later is a long time. Lazarus is definitely dead. He died because he fell ill. And once Jesus is greeted by Martha, which is Lazarus' sister, she tries to tell him, hey, you haven't been here for 4 days. He's definitely gone. Like, why couldn't you have come sooner to help him out, to heal him, and everything like that? So he responds with this verse. He says, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? So he is asking Martha if she believes in this. Now, let's go back to John 11:35, when Jesus wept. Now, Jesus is also with Lazarus' other sister, Mary, and she has said the same thing to him. When Lazarus died, the news traveled very quickly, and Lazarus was one of Jesus' closest friends, and Jesus really loved him. So on their way to the tomb, Jesus starts crying. He is showing human emotion. And sometimes you forget that Jesus was also man, and he was God at the same time. So right here in this verse, we see that he is showing some human emotion, and that human emotion just happens to be crying. And then they go to the tomb, and Jesus tells the disciples, because he also has some followers with him, to move the stone away from the tomb. Once the stone is removed from the tomb, Jesus then tells Lazarus to rise up. So I'm saying this part of the story because I want to show that about human emotion, because that's the theme of this chapter right here. So the human emotion is very important to show people, because if you don't show people human emotion, then they don't know how you're feeling or how the situation is going. Some cross-references that talks about emotions and when to have some emotions. One of them is Ecclesiastes 3:4. So you can look at your handout right now, and right there I just put a little bit of a summary about Ecclesiastes, and I will go ahead and read that to you now. So Ecclesiastes 3:4 says, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. You may put that handout away. So it is saying that there is the right time to do certain things, to have certain human emotions. Another cross-reference that I have is Romans 12:15. So in this verse, it says, rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. So again, it's saying to have fun whenever people are having fun, because you don't want to be crying whenever everybody else is laughing, or laughing whenever somebody is crying at a funeral. That's probably not the best idea. So for the last cross-reference I have is Jeremiah 13:17. And in this one, it says, the Lord of hosts who planted you has decreed disaster against you, because the evil that the house of Israel and the house of Judah have done, provoking me to anger. by making offerings to Baal. So in this one, God is very angry at the people because they were worshiping false gods, and that is showing something that we realize as human emotion, which is anger. Now, there are many verses that talk about human emotion, and the verse that I wanted to use that symbolizes that the most is Job. So in Job, the surrounding verses talk about how the devil is tempting him with a lot of things that are like killing his servants, killing his family, killing his wife, killing everything that he has, taking away everything that he has. And in Job 30:27, he expresses how he's feeling. He says, "The inward parts are in turmoil and never still. Days of affliction come to me." So he is very angry and upset at what has happened to him. This relates to believers because it, of course, shows human emotion and that Jesus is human, in fact human, and that he is 100% God as well. For the unbelievers, it relates to them as it is okay to have human emotions, and human emotions are good and not just for babies. So, Kendra Cherry, who is an educational consultant, speaker focused on helping students, she wrote an article on, talks about the University of Emotions and Recognition. So emotions are really important because they motivate us to take action, help us survive, thrive, and avoid danger, help us make decisions, and allows people to understand us, and allows us to understand other people. So, like I said, human emotions are very important, and that's why I chose John 11:35, because it shows that Jesus is human, and a few verses later, it shows that he is 100% God. So,
Thank you very much. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you, Lillian.